Hi, my name is Sarah Atchison. I am with Rasmussen University. This is for Managerial Economics Deliverable number 4. We will begin with an overview of the project and review the purpose of this presentation. We will then go over the following payment schedules for the new CEO. In the scenario number 1, we have a fixed fee option. Scenario number 2, profit sharing. Scenario number 3, with a stock option. Scenario number 4, bonuses, and scenario number 5 is a combination of stock option and bonus. We will go over each specific scenario in a moment, and then at the end of the presentation we will summarize before discussing the final recommendation. In this presentation we will be determining an optimal payment schedule for the new CEO of Oil Company X. To do this, we will evaluate the adverse selections and moral hazards of 5 possible payment schedules. Adverse selections occur when one party to a transaction possesses information about a hidden characteristic that is unknown to the other parties, and then uses this information to take an economic advantage, causing low-quality items to become overrepresented. A moral hazard occurs when an informed party takes action that cannot be seen by the other parties involved and can potentially cause harm to those less informed parties. In our evaluation of each scenario, we will discuss the pros and cons and then determine who will bear the risk. Will it be the CEO, the company, or will it be split? We will then determine which payment schedule scenario is best for Oil Company X at the conclusion of our presentation. In scenario number 1, we have a fixed fee payment schedule where the new CEO will receive a fixed wage. Some of the pros include the new CEO having a steady income, a fixed cost to the firm as the employees wouldn't waver or fluctuate the wages over the years, so they could avoid additional increases in their total costs for the company's overhead. The cons include the new CEO not having any room for monetary growth. The CEO would also not have any incentive to grow with the firm. So who bears the risk? We break it up here. The oil company is at about 70%. They do assume most of the risk because they risk losing the CEO due to a lack of room for growth in the company, as well as no hope for the CEO to make more money. This would then hinder the production of the company and deter them from working on bigger, riskier projects that will not have a return on investment. We would need to ensure that we only invest in projects that would have a quick turnaround and a good return on investment. The new CEO assumes the rest of the risk, about 30%, because they are the ones stuck with a steady wage and no hope to increase their wages, and they don't have room for personal growth, monetary growth, or growth within the company. In scenario number 2, we look at a profit sharing option. The new CEO receives 15% of the firm's profit with no wage. The current value of the firm's profit multiplied times 0.15 is equivalent to the fixed fee wage in option 1. So some of the pros would be that the company does not have to pay the CEO's wages on a regular basis. They just do it once a year, so it's one and done. Another one would be that the CEO would just get a large sum of money all at once, which may be nice for them momentarily. Some of the cons is that the new CEO does not have a steady income, and they would potentially not have an income for a year. So if they weren't great with their money management, that could become a problem. The new CEO may be desperate for money, so they may feel the need to partake in unethical or illegal endeavors to make more money in the meantime, since they are not seeing that paycheck for the course of a year. They may steal money from the company as well. So who bears the risk in this situation? I said the company, about 75%, as they are bearing most of the risk similar to our first scenario. They're risking the new CEO leaving due to not being financially compensated for quite a while. This would again hinder the production of the company and deter them from working on those bigger projects that wouldn't have a return on investment. They also risk the new CEO skimming money and possibly engaging in those unethical and illegal activities trying to make more money, which could potentially cost them the CEO, but also to be sued or shut down, depending on how serious it was. The new CEO then assumes the remainder of the risk at 25%, as they would be the one not getting paid for the year and potentially feeling the need to do some of those illegal activities to try to earn some money or steal some money before getting that big paycheck at the end of the year. In our third scenario, we look at stock options. The new CEO receives a base salary with an additional stock option tied to the total profits for the company. The base salary is 10% lower than the fixed fee from option number 1, with an additional 10% given in stocks. So the pros in this situation are that the company would keep 100% of their revenue. The CEO would also have a steady income. In the con side of things, the base pay starts out at 10% lower, and the additional stocks are tied to the profits, not the revenue, which would not be attractive to the CEO. Many companies can be very successful, but a majority of their money would be tied up with their revenue, so that wouldn't be very lucrative to the CEO. 10% of their profits does not come close to 10% of their revenue. So who bears the risk? The oil company would be at about 45%, as they're looking pretty good with their CEO being pretty satisfied with their salary, and they're only giving up 10% of their profits. This number could go up or down based on how well the company did, but they would also risk paying their CEO more if they had a very successful year. It could work out for them if they had a slower year and they would end up paying that CEO a little less. But again, they would risk the CEO becoming disgruntled at that lower salary and potentially looking for a new offer or having some of those issues with them wanting to skim money or take on projects they probably shouldn't that following year to make sure that the profits were higher the next year. The CEO would then assume the other 55% of the risk, as they are only getting 10% lower of their income, and then they're risking that other 10% based on the company's success. They may have a great year with an abundance of profits, or they could suffer from a hard year where they get a very small stock option. In our fourth scenario here, we look at bonuses. The new CEO receives a base salary, which is an additional stock bonus tied to the total revenues. The base salary is 10% lower than the fixed fee from option 1, with an additional 10% given as a bonus tied to the total revenue from the prior year. Our pros in this one are that the CEO has a steady income and gets 10% of the company's revenue, which would be very attractive to the CEO. In the cons, the oil company is giving up 10% of their revenue, and the CEO may partake in riskier projects to line their pockets. Having higher revenue means a higher bonus, so they may try to pick up projects that aren't necessarily good for the company, just in hopes to bring in more money to make that bonus higher. So who bears the risk? The oil company is bearing most of the risk, around 90% here, because they are giving up 10% of all revenue and hoping their CEO will be honest and not skim money off the top, or pick up those projects that are too risky and not healthy for the company just for a bigger payday. The new CEO is only taking on about 10% of the risk because they're getting a really great deal, they're getting a great offer, and the only risk at this point for the CEO would be if the company was just having a really terrible year or was forced to close down, and then they would be without a job. In scenario number 5, we look at the combination of stock options and bonuses. The new CEO receives a base salary with an additional stock option tied to the total profits. The base salary is 10% lower than the fixed fee from option 1, with an additional 5% given in stocks and 5% given in the form of a bonus. So our pros here again are that CEO having a steady income and the CEO receiving stock in the company as well as a bonus. The cons are that the base pay begins 10% lower, and oil company X is giving up 10% of their profits in the form of stock option, and 5 of that being in a bonus and 5 being in the profits. However, the 5% in stock is better than the 10% in scenario number 3. So who bears the risk? This one's about 50-50. The company is assuming some risk by giving up 10% of their profits and giving the CEO 5% in the form of stock and 5% in the form of a bonus. This may appear more lucrative to the CEO, but it is a better option than the 10% of revenue they would give up in scenario number 4. The new CEO is the remainder of the 50%, and they are assuming some risk as they're starting out with a 10% lower salary, and if the company has a bad year, they would get a very small bonus or a small stock option, and of course they risk the company closing. But at the end of the year, they would receive stock in the company worth 5% of the company's profit, and that has the potential to grow, as well as 5% of profits in the form of a bonus, which could actually be higher than the 10% of base salary they lost in the beginning. So, on our final conclusion here, we look at the payment schedules for a new CEO. In scenario 1, we talked about a fixed fee. The company is about 70% risk, CEO 30%. In scenario number 2, we looked at profit sharing. The company assumes 75%, the CEO about 25%. In scenario number 3, we looked at stock options, with the company assuming 45% risk and the CEO at 55%. In scenario number 4, we discussed bonuses, where the company takes on the majority of the risk at 90% and the CEO at 10%. And in our final scenario, we looked at stock option and bonus, which broke out to about a 50% for both. My recommendation after reviewing the payment scenarios is that scenario number 5, which offers the CEO stock options and bonuses, would be the best possible solution. This option minimizes both moral hazard and adverse selections to both parties, as the CEO should not feel the need to line their pockets or partake in any of those unethical activities or unhealthy projects that will not benefit the company. The CEO is getting a lucrative and desirable offer in salary, and at the end of the year they will receive stock in the company worth 5% of the company's profits and has the potential for growth, as well as 5% of profits in the form of a bonus, which could definitely be more than the 10% of base salary they lost at the beginning. The company will benefit from a happy CEO and will potentially and hopefully take on projects that are healthy for the company to aid the company in growth and success, and they would be keeping all of their revenue, so it would be better for them to give up 10% of their profit than 10% of their revenue so they can remain successful. Thank you so much.